But every hero has a weakness, and for Samson it was lust. His uncontrolled desire led him into the arms of Delilah, a decision that would ultimately lead to his downfall. It wasn't an army or a rival king that defeated him, but his own internal battle.
Have you ever heard of a superhero whose power came from his hair? No, I'm not talking about a comic book character. I'm talking about Samson, one of the most famous figures from the Old Testament. His story is a wild ride of incredible strength, deep love, and a tragic downfall. So grab your popcorn, because this is a tale you won't want to miss. Samson's story begins even before he was born. An angel appeared to his mother, who couldn't have children, and told her she would have a son. This son would be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from birth. The rules were simple but strict. No wine, no touching anything unclean, and most importantly, never, ever cut his hair. This last rule was the source of his superhuman strength. From a young age, it was clear Samson was special. The Spirit of the Lord was with him, and he could do things no ordinary man could. Imagine tearing a lion apart with your bare hands. Sounds like something out of a movie, right? Well, Samson did exactly that. It happened when he was on his way to see a Philistine woman he wanted to marry. Yes, you heard that right. Despite being an Israelite judge, Samson had a thing for Philistine women, which was a constant source of trouble. At his wedding feast, he posed a riddle to his Philistine guests. If they could solve it, he'd give them 30 sets of fine clothes. If not, they'd owe him the same. The riddle was about the lion he killed. Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. They couldn't figure it out, so they threatened his new wife. They told her to get the answer from Samson or they would harm her and her family. Feeling pressured, she cried and begged until Samson finally gave in and told her the secret. Of course, the Philistines then solved the riddle. Samson was furious, not just because he lost the bet, but because he was betrayed. He knew they had cheated. To pay his debt, he went to a Philistine town, single-handedly defeated 30 men, and took their clothes. This event kicked off a long and violent conflict between Samson and the Philistines. His feats of strength became legendary. He once caught 300 foxes, tied their tails together with torches, and set them loose in the Philistines' fields, burning their crops to the ground. When they came to arrest him, he let his own people tie him up, only to snap the ropes like threads once he was handed over. He then picked up the jawbone of a donkey and struck down 1,000 Philistine soldiers. 1,000, with just a bone. The man was a one-man army. But Samson's greatest weakness wasn't a kryptonite-like substance. It was his heart. He fell in love with another Philistine woman named Delilah. The Philistine rulers saw their chance. They went to Delilah and offered her a huge amount of silver if she could discover the secret to Samson's strength. 3 times, Delilah asked Samson for his secret, and 3 times, Eliad. First, he said, if he were tied with 7 fresh bowstrings, he'd be as weak as any other man. She tried it while he slept, but he snapped them easily. Then he said new ropes would do the trick. Nope, he broke those too. His third lie was that if she wove his long hair into a loom, he would lose his power. She did, but he just woke up and pulled the whole loom out of the ground. But Delilah was persistent. She guilt-tripped him, saying, "How can you say you love me when you won't confide in me?" Day after day, she nagged and pleaded until Samson's spirit was broken. He finally told her everything. He confessed that he was a Nazirite, and if his hair were shaved, his strength would leave him. That night, as Samson slept on her lap, Delilah called in a Philistine to shave off his 7 braids of hair. When she shouted, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson," he woke up expecting to fight them off, as usual. But this time was different. The Lord had left him. His strength was gone. The Philistines captured him, gouged out his eyes, and threw him in prison to grind grain like an animal. It was a humiliating end for the hero who was once invincible. But they made one crucial mistake. They forgot about his hair. As he toiled in prison, it began to grow back. The Philistines decided to hold a massive celebration to honor their god, Dagon, for delivering Samson into their hands. They brought the blind Samson out into the temple to entertain the massive crowd. Thousands of people were on the roof, and inside, mocking him. Samson asked the servant leading him to let him feel the pillars that supported the temple, so he could lean against them. And there, in his darkest moment, Samson prayed to God one last time. He said, "Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more." He placed his hands on the two central pillars of the temple, one on his right and one on his left. With a final, mighty push, he cried out, "Let me die with the Philistine!" The temple came crashing down, killing everyone inside, including Samson himself. In his death, he defeated more Philistines than he had in his entire life. Samson's story is a powerful reminder of how great strengths can be undone by personal weaknesses. It's a classic tale of a flawed hero, a man blessed with divine power but cursed by his own human desires. What do you think is the biggest lesson from his life? Have you ever heard of a king so wise that people traveled from the ends of the earth just to hear him speak? A king who built a magnificent temple, a wonder of the ancient world. That was King Solomon. His story starts with incredible promise, a golden age of wisdom, peace, and prosperity. But it's also a story about how even the wisest can be led astray, a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked desire. When Solomon first became king, he humbly asked God not for riches or power, but for wisdom to rule his people justly. God was so pleased with this request that he granted Solomon not only unparalleled wisdom but also wealth and honor beyond any king before or after him. Solomon's reign began as a testament to his divine gift. He wrote thousands of proverbs, composed over 1,000 songs, and his understanding of nature, from the mighty cedar to the humble hyssop, was legendary. The Queen of Sheba, hearing of his fame, journeyed from a distant land with a great caravan of camels, spices, gold, and precious stones. She came to test him with hard questions, and Solomon answered them all. There was nothing, she asked, that he could not explain. Amazed, she declared that the reality of his wisdom and prosperity far exceeded the reports she had heard. It seemed Solomon had it all: a kingdom blessed by God, a reputation that echoed across the world, and a mind sharper than any other. But here is where the story takes a turn. Solomon's great achievements were matched by his great appetites. To forge political alliances, he began to marry foreign princesses, a common practice for kings at the time. He married the daughter of Pharaoh and princesses from Moab, Ammon, Edom, and Sidon. The problem wasn't just the marriages, but what came with them. The law of his people was clear. Do not marry from these nations, for they will surely turn your heart away to follow their gods. Solomon didn't just have a few foreign wives. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines. As he grew older, his heart, which once belonged wholly to the God who gave him everything, began to drift. His wives turned his heart after other gods. The wisest man on earth began to do what was evil in the Lord's sight. He built high places for Chemosh, the god of Moab, and for Molech, the god of the Ammonites, right on a hill east of Jerusalem. He did the same for all his foreign wives, who burned incense and offered sacrifices to their own gods. The very man who built the glorious temple for the one true God was now building altars to idols. The consequences were severe. God told Solomon that because he had broken their covenant, the kingdom would be torn from him. However, for the sake of his father, David, it wouldn't happen in his lifetime. But after his death, the United Kingdom of Israel would be split in two. Solomon's story is a powerful reminder. It shows us that wisdom, wealth, and power are no guarantee against falling into temptation. His life started with such divine favor and ended in a fractured kingdom and a tarnished legacy. It teaches us that the heart is a battlefield, and we must guard it diligently. No matter how wise or successful we become, we must remain humble and true to our core beliefs. What starts as a small compromise can lead to a great downfall. It is a timeless lesson from an ancient king whose life was a study in both glory and tragedy. Thanks for watching. If you found this story thought-provoking, please like this video and subscribe for more content just like it. See you next time.